Hey guys, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be working in my new art journal. I did a flip through of this one on a previous video, and I'm just so in love with the way she turned out. Here I'm just showing that I made this cute little hidden paperclip embellishment. Thought she turned out really cute. I didn't do a video on this just because there's several on YouTube, several videos on that, but let me know if that's something that you would like to see. Probably going to do at least 2 or 3 more, I think, probably for this journal. And then I wanted to show you my process here of how I go about protecting the journal when I'm working in it. So I use deli paper, but I recommend maybe wax paper or something that's not permeable. Just because if you get very much liquid on there, it will go through the deli paper if it's not waxed. And I have here a couple of, it's actually a book cover from a book that I disassembled. And I have the front and the back, and I put it underneath the page that I'm going to be working on. So it gives good support. And then I just take some clips and clip everything down, and it really provides a pretty good work surface. Then I've also got these little decorated paper clips. Uh, you'll see here in a second. It's kind of sticking up there, that uh, green fabric paper clip. So I just don't trust myself. I think I'm going to take this sucker out. But it does pretty good. As long as you kind of cover stuff up, then um, there's, like you're going to see today, I'm using sprays and inks and all kinds of things. And yeah, I didn't make a mess in it at all. So today I kind of was feeling autumn theme, an autumn color scheme. Um, Here I have an archival Tim Holtz ink. It's Dusty Concord, I think. So I'm going to be working with some sprays and ink pads and stamps today. And for this, I just got this diamond pattern background stamp, and I'm just putting some of the purple on the stamp, and you'll see that I'm going back and forth during the video between using archival inks and then the distress inks or the oxides. And the archival, I'm sure many of you know, are permanent. They don't react with water, whereas the oxides and the inks, distress inks, they do react. So I just kept that in mind whenever I was deciding where to put each of the different inks. Some of them I wanted to move, or I didn't mind if they moved. And then, like this particular background, uh, I didn't want it to move, so I used the archival ink on that. Then I have this other background stamp that looks like bricks. I'm gonna use that. And I started, like I said earlier, I was thinking autumn colors. And I got out this wild honey. And after I started looking at it, I thought, I think this is just a little too bright for what I'm wanting. So I decided to put that aside. And instead, I got out the vintage photo, and this is the oxide. These inks are just so much fun to play with, especially when you mix the oxides and the inks together. They create such cool effects. So I wound up kind of going with a Tuscan theme, like a grapevine vineyard type theme. But it's very abstract. I'm just kind of layering stamps right now for the background, get that going. I'm not sure. Some of these, I think maybe the two stamps that I've already used were from Amazon. This one is a big old background stamp. I want to say that is Stampendous is the brand of that one. And then I have Antique Linen in the oxide. I'm just going to try to get a little more background, kind of fill up that white space. And I think this particular piece of paper that I was working on in the journal was a hot pressed watercolor paper. So it doesn't have a whole lot of texture to it. So it's really good for stamping. And in these journals, I put a variety of different papers in there. So, someday you may want to do watercolor or mixed media. You may want to collage or journal. So I try to kind of keep that in mind when I'm making these journals. I put in just a variety of papers so that it'll hold, just whatever you want to do. Give you a good variety. And so far, I'm really, really loving this journal. I really like how it's laid out and how it's set up, and just the whole idea of a mixed media art journal is awesome to me just because I love mixed media. Here I've got a Bow Bunny stamp, probably came from Michael's or what do you call that store? Tuesday Morning. And I'm so sad that they went out of business. I love some Tuesday Morning. So here's some little grapes, and I've got that in the Dusty Concord Oxide ink. We're just having some random little grape clusters for the background. And of course, these will react with anything wet. So you'll see later, I'm going to go over the top of these with some of the archival ink in the same stamp, which really gives a cool effect because you get kind of a blurry background when you activate it, but yet the stamped image will be defined and clear on the front where you use the archival ink. It's pretty fun. So looking for something to kind of fill in the background. This, I think, was Shabby Shutters Bundled Sage. I can't remember. but this is just the stain, distress spray stain. I'm just trying to get a feeling like there is some greenery, some leaves, maybe growing up on this vine. I think I was a little afraid to start out with the spray, so I went easy at first. Now I've just got a little water trying to activate that stain. My fine mist spray bottle. Yeah, and I'm like, that's not going to work. So I got a little more brave. This is really the first time I've worked in this journal. I did do another, just a test page in it, but with some watercolor, just to kind of play around. But this is really the first time I've really done a full page in it. So a lot of people ask, what do you do with these journals? They're pretty, but what do you do with them? So, oh, and you can see I'm drawing the spray there. So that's why I wanted to do some videos just showing different things that you can do, some different ideas for working in these. And you can, of course, do any kind of art projects that you want. Um, Also, there's lots of room in different places for journaling. If you are somebody that likes to write and journal, sorry for my big old noggin. Was trying to get those bricks lined up because I didn't have enough bricks going to the edge. So I just added a little more. But um, anyway, so my idea is just to go through and do a few of these different types of pages just to give you guys some ideas of different things you can do. So I have a couple of ideas for some fun fonts and writing pages. So that's probably going to be the next video I'll have going up. And then I've got a text stamp that I'm going to add for the background. And I'm trying to think what that was. I think that was antique linen. Yeah, just so I'm trying to cover up some of that white space toward the top. I'm just one of those kind of people that doesn't really care for a lot of white space left on my pages. I'm trying to kind of get over that. Um, I don't know, it just feels naked to me. Are you guys like that? You feel like you need to cover the whole page, or do you guys like white space in there? Let me know in the comments. So if you guys are enjoying these videos, please give me a thumbs up. I sure would appreciate it. Now, here's where I'm going in with that, the archival ink, and I'm going to go in on top of the oxide ink with the little grape stamps. And of course, they're not going to be perfect. You're not going to be able to get them lined up exactly how you did before. But I think it looks cool how it's kind of offset. And then you have the fuzzy grapes in the back and a much more clear image on the top. I really enjoyed doing this page. It turned out really good, I thought, and it was a lot of fun to make. And that's the most important thing. You gotta have fun. If you're not fun and getting messy hands, then there's no point. That's my motto. And the more mess you make, the more fun you have. Well, that's what I say. So it's time to clean it all up. I'll just add just a little more purple toward the top, a few more grapes. And I could have, instead of cleaning my stamp off on a paper towel, probably would have been a better idea to use a book page or scrap piece of paper. And then that way you can use that later as part of an embellishment. And you're not really wasting any ink. Now I'm just grabbing another one of those stamps, and this one is more just leaves. I was just looking for a little greenery here. And that one I think is peeled paint, and this one is archival. I'm just going to randomly put these around just to try to fill in that trellis looking shape. Just kind of give the idea of grapevine climbing up that trellis, maybe along the side of a house or a building. And I always like to run my stamps off the edge of the page or stencils. I know some instructors, art instructors, will tell you not to do that because they say that it makes people's eyes, like when they're looking at your picture, at your piece, that it makes your eyes wander off the page. But I just like how it looks, and I think it really adds to the interest. And I like using parts of stamps and stencils instead of the whole image. Just keeps it interesting. And it doesn't look so stamped, I guess, or stenciled. So here is antique linen spray, trying to get rid of some of that white space. And you're going to see you pick this journal up a little bit and try to run the ink just to kind of cover up some of this background. And this is where a lot of fun things start to happen when you have that wet ink running across the bricks of the oxide ink. You start to get some reactions, and that's where I think you get a lot of interest and a really cool effect. That ink just did not want to run. Come on, you can do it. Man, when you want the ink to run, it goes so slow. And if you wanted it in one space, then it'd be running all over the page. I just added a tiny bit of water just to make it run a little bit and also get things to move around and oxidize a little bit. And I didn't want to really mess up my brick pattern, so I just used the back of a paintbrush instead of the bristles, just to kind of move that stain around, that spray. Of course, we can always go back on top of it, if it messes it up or you want to redo your image, you can always go back over it. And then I'm just going to use my heat tool and dry it. So that's pretty much the background. Here I have some white acrylic ink that I'm using for some splatter. I've got it in a little container and I add just a little bit of water to it. And that's a little pipette that I was using. And I don't actually suck up the ink inside the pipette. I just kind of dip it in there and then flick it, and it gives some pretty good little splatters or spatters, whatever you call them. And then I found this little image of these grapes on a paper napkin. So I took off the top layer of the napkin and I glued it to just a piece of cardstock and cut around it and then inked around it to make it kind of stand out. And then the other leaves are just a die cut from a coffee stained book page. Thought they kind of looked like grape leaves. And then I have a piece of burlap ribbon that I cut off, and I'm going to try to cut it up and distress it and make it look uh, distressed, I guess. Not so perfect. Rough it up a little bit just because I like the way that looks. So I'm just kind of trimming it so some of it will stick out and show underneath. I'm just fraying the edges. Boy, that burlap has lots of little fine uh, dust that comes off of it when you cut it. So you got to watch, make sure you don't do that on top of wet paint. It'll stick. I could not pick those up. So I'm just trying to kind of lay stuff out here, seeing what looks good. I've got enough trimmed off. Just trimming a little bit more. I really like how this burlap looks on the finished piece. There's all that fine little dust. That was a mess. You guys can always adjust your video speed if things are going too slow or too fast for your liking. If you go down to the little gearbox at the bottom of the video, you can adjust your playback speed. Not sure if everybody knows that. So just kind of trying it out again, making sure that I got enough trimmed off. Just a little bit more. And then I go get my gesso. This is just Liquitex liquid gesso. You could also use, instead of a liquid, they have some that comes in a jar, and you can use that too. And I'm just using my finger here, getting messy as usual. And I'm just gonna kind of distress this a bit with the gesso. I really like how it looks when you put gesso on top of things like this. On top of your trims, it really looks good. And it's always fun to finger paint too, right? Just a little bit more. Want to try to get it on the edges. You could do as much or as little as you like. It's such a fun technique. And then I wanted to add a little something in between the burlap and the grapes and the leaves. So at first I got some just sewing thread, but it wound up being too thin. I didn't like the way it looked. Didn't give me enough oomph. So I grabbed some embroidery floss. And this was actually, I'm sure you can't really see it, but it was a variegated thread. It had purples and browns in it. Really pretty thread. So I got that and I'm trying it out, but I determined that it's too chunky, like it's too thick. And I don't know if you guys know, but there is 6 strands in those embroidery floss skeins. So you can divide them as thin as you like. So a lot of times people will divide them in half for 3 and 3. But I think in this one, I wound up going with 2 strands. So I did a couple of pieces that were just 2 strands thick. And I just like to pile it on and kind of loop it around so it'll poke out from underneath and really give a fun extra little texture. I'm just going to try it out, see what it looks like. It almost looks like um, the stems on the grapevine. Kind of has that effect. I'm just trying it out and trying to determine where to put everything. Probably could have sped this up a little bit. Sorry. You never know what people want to see and what they want to skip past. So I went and got some uh, burlap ribbon and I just cut a little piece off and I'm going to fold it in half and basically just make like a little tie that looks like it would go on the top of a tag. I'm trying to kind of fray the edges a bit here to give it a distressed look, kind of go with the other piece of burlap. And I've just got it folded in half. And I'm just going to stick it down and use this tiny little stapler and put a staple in it. I thought that would be really cute. I'm just getting that placed where I want it. I'm going to staple her down. Oh, she's looking cute. What am I looking for? Glue. I think I'm looking for glue. Yeah. So I wound up using Fabri-Tac on this to glue it to the journal page. It's strong hold. Um, it'll hold that burlap really well. Another option that you could use is a matte gel, glossy, or actually doesn't have to be matte, a gel medium. That's the word I'm looking for, gel medium. So it can be glossy or matte, either way, but it's just kind of thick and it will really help hold, um, heavier pieces to your paper. And then I went in with that Fabri-Tac and added some more on top of the burlap so that I could glue down all the layers together. I wanted everything to make sure it stuck really well because I didn't add any glue beforehand. I just used that staple. So we got to get all that glued down, just let it dry. And then I got some Tim Holtz words. I think it's small talk or something like that. It's from Ideology. Anyway, I felt like the page needed something else. It's looking good, but I felt like it was too light. Needed something dark. So I chose some dark words with the black background. And it says, what does it say? I think it says, together is the best place to be. But it was too long. So I cut them apart. And then I just got a little scrap of tea-dyed paper and used that for a backing. And then I'm just going to trim this down a little bit so it'll have something poking out from behind it. I don't always put words on my pages, but in this case, I felt like it needed it just because the page was pretty light, except for the grapes. So I'm just going to trim these out sort of even. Do like to kind of offset things a little bit so that they're kind of wonky. I think they look cute that way. And then I got some of that purple ink, the archival, is it Dusty Concord? Yeah, and I'm just taking that and going around the edge of that book page just to kind of add a little more darkness to it. And I saved you from watching all the inking. I didn't figure you'd want to watch that. And then I'm just trying to get them placed where I want them, where I think they look good. And I'm using art glitter glue for that. You might could use glue stick. I don't know. The wet glue I think is going to stick a lot better. It'll kind of soak down into the paper. And you won't have to worry about it falling off. And I don't worry too much about gluing stuff down like this in an art journal because I do use um, those book, not plates, but those hard covers underneath my paper, so it doesn't like prevent me from making another page. You know what I mean? Like it's not, I don't have to worry about it being lumpy under a future page that I'm working on because I use those hard um, book covers underneath there. So that helps quite a bit. And then I think last but not least, I'm just going to go in here with a little bit of white Posca pen just to add a few little highlights here and there just to make it pop off the page. And of course, it was not wanting to work. But that's pretty much it, guys. I'll give you a better view here in a second. I really like how it turned out. It was super cute. And then when you take the all of the protective papers off, it really makes a difference. Like, watch it come to life as soon as you take that stuff away. Look, she looks so good. Oh, it looks so good in there. I'm just super happy with that. Hopefully you guys can see together is the best place to be. That was super cute for a cluster of grapes. And I'm just putting my little clip back where I wanted it. And there she is. Well, I hope you guys found this informative. Thank you guys.